Okay, I think this is turn 4 we're starting now. And drew our event cards. The Fellowship player actually, or Free People's player, actually had to discard a card. Nobody knows what it is. Well, the evil player doesn't know what it is. It was this Paths of the Roses, which is kind of painful, not because this is terribly good, which allows you to kind of move quickly to minus Tirith with Rohirrim, but the sudden strike gives you an attack with extra dice before the combat equal to your leadership. The problem though, well, right now it doesn't look like the Free People player is going to have a lot of leaders in any one area, except maybe I might be able to gather these forces together and form kind of a strike force of the Northern Allies up here. But that looks kind of like a fantasy. The other cards all looked more valuable at this moment. I'm always forgetting about these rings. I'm not sure I ever feel like, damn, I really need something with the Fellowship. But we're also going to declare the Fellowship here. I have my extra die, right? Yeah, for Gandalf. Okay, we're going to declare the Fellowship, reducing this as being in Lorien. That does one major thing, which is it reduces my corruption by 1. I've healed a turn in Lorien. If I stick around there, I can heal another turn. I have something up my sleeve for that. And I guess that's about it there. So it's time to allocate the hunt. You know, with Fellowship in Lorien, maybe they're going to heal some more. I don't want to give them a completely free ride, but I sure don't want to throw 3 dice into there. I'm going to only throw 1. That means, if you push your luck, you'll probably get caught. But if you want to leave, go ahead and move. Otherwise, though, I'm going to get lots of military action with these 6 dice. And meanwhile, the Fellowship's getting a pool of dice. And now it's time to roll those. The opening plays are event cards. For the evil player, the Fellowship was able to pass because the evil player had more. This Dreadful Spells, which was why I was set up here. 5 dice to try to hit into minus Tirith. I only got 1 hit on it, but this doesn't do anything to the political situation. And then for the Fellowship, the Mirror of Galadriel, that used a character action, but it turned 1 unused character into a Will of the West. Okay, not a big deal there. The big reason I wanted this was the free additional action to it, which is it healed a corruption. Because I'm in Lorien, which is a helpful little bonus at this moment. The definition on this card is a little shaky. Also, if the Fellowship is in Lorien, you may immediately heal a corruption point. So if I had moved, I don't think I'd be in Lorien anymore. That's kind of a weird determination because, well, I didn't have to have left, as far as I can understand from the movement. I don't think it's quite like Land 4000, where you have to move the distance that it claims you moved. Maybe I'm incorrect there. Let's paw through this. So if you declare your position, you may move the figure a number of regions. That's different from must. So you could stay in the same location. There's no real way to do this unless it's at, I don't know. I just don't know how that would be handled. Because most of the other cards say, hey, if the last known position was there. But that would be kind of goofy. Hey, I'm down here and I get that bonus. So it wouldn't be as correct to the storyline. But There is something weird about that. Anyway, I certainly can do it now because I haven't moved yet. And that puts us back into the evil player to make it. Last couple actions. The evil player played this Oleg High, allowing them to muster an elite unit here. Still within range, still within stacking limitations because I took some losses here. This used an event to play. I actually played my event piece for that. And then the allies played a character action to make a move. Hey, I'm all healed now, I might as well start going. This causes some problems. The evil player was kind of toying with the idea of, he's got this sort of threats and promises card, which would prevent the good player from bringing any, moving any of these activations closer to the war level. And I was kind of toying with that idea to prevent that and concentrate my own forces on hunting the Fellowship maybe, but with the Fellowship here that seemed kind of iffy, so I chose not to do that. But now maybe I do want to play it, but instead what I did was I played Saruman. I used a muster ability to bring him into play. He gives me a couple of nice little advantages. First of all, a little defensive leadership here in Orthanc, but also his voice, which allows me to recruit a bunch of regulars using a muster die roll. Basically in all his settlements, which I guess are these three. Which is better than normal, a little bit heavier troop building. Also, instead, I could convert 2 regular units into 2 elite units in Orthanc itself, which has about the same effect. And then also my elite units for the Saruman player are turned into, I don't have any on the, well, no, I have one on the board, are turned into leaders, which is important because I don't have a leader under Saruman. This is the only way to get leadership advantages from him. So now all my warg riders are leaders. And that puts us back on the Fellowship. The Fellowship used their military options die to activate and bring into war the dwarves. And Sauron decided to launch an attack on Minas Tirith. Now that river doesn't help at all, sadly enough. There's no real terrain in this whole thing, except for what's on the board in terms of these, and the Citadel doesn't help. So I'm able to launch an attack with all these pieces directly against Minas Tirith, but Minas Tirith has the option to withdraw into the Citadel, and I think they're going to do that before the fight begins. Now, that was an attack, I think. Even though it didn't occur, I'm able to bring this humongous force into here. Shit. Stupid fucking minis. And see how wonderful they are? You don't have this problem with most war games. I had a little bit of trouble with flying colors until I moved to paper instead of keeping everything in piles of counters. But boy, that's annoying. Anyway, we're not going to actually see the fight happening because we just moved in and laid siege. We're going to need another army action. We have one to actually attack the Citadel. And then we only get 1 round anyway. The cleverness here, I'm using these Will of the West markers essentially as character actions. One of them was to move Gandalf and his army. That could have been an army action. Actually, I could do 2 moves if I do it that way. Let me take that back and do a second move. I can pull these guys out of the Iron Hills too. I was moving down into here, and that allowed me to activate the Men of the North. It doesn't move them forward. Then the Sauron player, now that I've got Gondor at war, I'm playing the threats and promises. This marker can't go forward anymore. It's at war. It's as far as it goes. So if I conduct warfare against Gondor or against the dwarves, nobody's going to be bothered by that. And because of that, I can conduct my entire war against Gondor and kind of ignore the rest of the free peoples. I don't have to try to trigger them. Now, there's a decent amount of points in Gondor, 2, 4, 5, I believe. So that's half of what I need. And I should be able to pretty much wipe Gondor off the map before I move forward. Then the Fellowship played one of their Will of the Wests to move a little further. Destroy the ring and you don't have to worry about this other condition. Got one more card. I'm going to launch my assault. What the hell? Now, I want to make sure that there aren't any special rules about a siege here. I mean, I know I only get one round and I need a 6, but am I allowed to play cards? I can reduce elite units to regulars in order to keep pushing the siege forward. I also may have an event that works for this. A defending unit may never choose to retreat. An army besieging is free to move away. I remembered something about not being able to use a card. Well, we'll see. I can't find the role if it exists. So, both players played a card. The evil player played Relentless Assault. Before the combat, you can eliminate up to 2 shadow units. Add 1 to your combat roll die for each such eliminated unit. That improves, remember I need 6s, my chances tremendously. Not sure I have 5 units left though. I have 3, 4, yeah. So I'll be able to succeed there. And the leadership, this doesn't affect the leadership roll. On the other hand, for the allies, I played Valor. They have an elite unit in their command, the guy on the horse, and that will give them a +1 to their die rolls. Okay, so I'll roll the free people first. They have 3 dice at +1. So they're going to cause 1 hit. And I've got 5 dice at +2. I only cause 1 hit. So both sides are at 1, and I don't have any way to really mark that. But I've got enough Nazgul that I can re-roll. Oh! I've got a leader here too. So the free player, people player gets to re-roll 1 die. That did not help because this bonus is only on the combat roll, not on the re-roll roll. And I'm re-rolling 4 dice for the Nazgul. Could have re-rolled them all. Again, no bonuses here. I get a 2nd hit on them. I'm going to essentially take this guy and this guy. So I lose that. And over here, I've taken 2 losses. I have to take, if I can remember correctly, I believe 1 more. Do I want to lose an elite? 3, 4, 5, 6? Yes, I will keep my elites alive. Because I've got other uses for my elites. For example, I can push into another round of combat by exchanging an elite into a regular. These 3 tokens, though, turn into 3 of these little guys. We'll go back here. And now I could convert one of my elites to try to finish this off. These cards go away, they've been used. I'm going to do that. I don't want to waste another turn on these attacks. Well, let's put a guy back in there, because tokens are easier to deal with than these stupid pieces of plastic. And now I'm only at 3, 4, 5 dice. I gotta look at my combat cards again, though, because I probably want to play one. The Shadow player is running low on cards. He's only got one event card left. Remember, I was at a point where I was worried, and actually maybe the Fellowship had to discard one. Fellowship's got 3 left, but he's also playing one. You know, you want to win these battles. So, Foul Stench, play only if a Nazgul is in the battle. This was an iffy one, but I don't have the Witch King, and I'm not sure I want him anytime soon. So playing this doesn't seem bad. What this is going to do is my leadership equals or exceeds the Free People's, so he's not going to get a leadership reroll. That's kind of a bonus. He doesn't have a lot of units, though, so that's not too big. But he took a Daylight. The Shadow player rolls a maximum of 3 regular combat rolls during his 3 dice during his combat roll. He's still got as many rerolls as he likes, but the combat roll sets how many dice I get to throw in the first place. So I've got 2 dice here, no bonuses, and I get 2 hits. That's pretty potent. Whereas the evil player only gets 3 dice because of the Daylight card. And I also get 2 hits. I don't need to reroll because I won the battle essentially. So we each lose 2 units. Two more of these. It'll get sucked out of here and into my reserves because we're just keeping track of how many pieces I'm allowed on the board. Whereas these are all dead, dead, dead. Minas Tirith has fallen. Oh, we're diverging heavily from the book here, are we not? And we get a little control marker in Minas Tirith, which indicates we get 2 victory points for that. And I'd have to say that's pretty successful for the evil player, no? I think so. All right. That looks like the end of the turn. Saruman has given me an extra die, so I'm going to have more power next turn. It's coming to be a race, right? I mean, I feel like I got to get the ring down there fast, and I'm not sure with this kind of schwack and the attacks that are going to come here and this card that I'm going to have a real opportunity to bring much into play. I've got the dwarves. They can come down, but the men are never going to come. I've got the elves close by, but they're not ready yet. They're not at war yet. And that's kind of a painful situation. All right. Well, this is, I believe, the beginning of turn 5. Selected our event cards. I've looked at them. Understand them for now. They'll fade from memory. 3 hunt dice in play. Why 3? Well, I feel like the military victory is what I'm aiming for, so I need lots of dice for that. But I can't let the Fellowship advance too easily. I have to make it kind of problematic for them. Anyway, the fall of Minas Tirith led me to reflect a little bit how these games always have victory conditions that kind of the Sauron player never reached anywhere near in the book. When you think about what actually maybe sort of fell in any of them, well, there's the Shire. He's just not this big bad threat that he comes across in the book if you put it in game terms. He fails everywhere in the stories. It's kind of amusing. Anyway, it's still cool to see a game that brings it to light, but you probably will never see one of these games play out quite like the book unless the Fellowship player is getting incredibly lucky. Anyway, I guess it's time to roll some dice because the Fellowship's not taking any special action. Die roll combination. The Fellowship obviously is going to have to play first. He's got an event, I guess a muster, which isn't terribly useful. He can't, well, he can use it to bring up more troops, but he can't use it to bring more of his powers into play, his groups. And then 3 characters. Great. Except the evil player has 5 dice in here after getting 2 eyes. That makes advancing the fellowship kind of difficult. You always have this balance. Let's say the evil player puts lots and lots of dice in here. Well, then the fellowship player might not try to move the fellowship as much. He might try to protect his current holdings, or eventually maybe try to turn this into a military victory. It's tough to do a military victory, though, because of the force pool limitation. If this develops into a war of attrition, the Sauron player wins. He's got infinite troops. The fellowship have only what's out there. They start taking losses, they can't replace them. Anyway, got to do some playing, mainly where we've gotten Fellowship mustered, and they took extra unit in here and an extra unit up in Erebor. That seemed like a weird place, except, well, their next thing was an event card. They played Dane's Iron Guard, or Ironfoot's Guard. That gave them a regular and an elite dwarf there. Then, and a leader. Actually, a leader and an elite dwarf. Then they actually used a character action to move down, join Gandalf, and another character action to move here. At the same time, or interspersed in there, the evil player was able to pass a little bit. He made a march into here, successfully killing the forces in Peligre, and that's another victory point. We're up to 3. And then he did a muster. I think he pulled here and here. He's got to go now, and I want to move all my Nazgul. Because I need to get into better positions. Basically, these character actions, I could have been using them to move my armies or attack with them. What about the other Nazgul? These are kind of harder to judge what I'd want to do with. I get a modifier by having a large force with them. So I'll put, or by having, I get the leadership bonus by having more of them. So I'm going to split them up to basically 2 in each key area. Those are all my leaders right now. I'm planning on advancing and hoping to take Dol Amroth. And once I get that, if I leave garrisons behind in these areas, well, even if I don't, they're no longer able to raise Gondor troops. So that gets me a big chunk of the way. If Gondor is knocked out, then I can go after the next power. That may not be Rohan, because Rohan's so far down. I may want to instead either go after the dwarves, although they're kind of at the edges of the earth, or likewise against the elves at Lorien. But again, that brings them into play. It's easier to wipe out the 2 big national powers of Rohan and... yeah, I would definitely want to go for Rohan. Here's why. As soon as I make an attack that modifies anybody's position on here, this thing goes away, and then the Fellowship can start adding new groups into it. And Rohan I could knock out the same sort of way that I'm knocking out Gondor here, with kind of surprise attacks, that can't be met, at least early on. Alright, that leaves 1 fellowship action. Well, do I want to march further with my little army of dwarves? It doesn't seem like the match for these forces when you add Nazgul in them particularly. On the other hand, I want to gain some ground. Taking something of a risk here. This doesn't go in quite yet. That gives me 5 dice. But I need a 6 to get hit. We'll push this forward. I got one. And unfortunately, I have a card that would have helped if things were a little different. So I get a 0, which is cool. A 0 doesn't do any damage to me, but I am now exposed. And I'm 3 spaces out of Lorien. I have to declare where I am. Well, this doesn't connect directly here to the South Anduin Vale. So I can go here. 1. 2 gets me a lot of room. and then 3 gets me down to here. So if I go down to the Druiden Forest, I hope that's not black, that's purple. I thought that might be an impassable space, and then wow, you can't cross. The Anduin's completely uncrossable, which, you know, would be a reasonable assertion if there are fords on it, which, you know, are represented otherwise. And that looks like the end of the line there. We're looking at the possibility of the ring victory. Is that where we want to go? 1, 2, 3, we could be down here, but this gets us closer. I like where we are better at this point. Alrighty. And after the die roll, we can see the Fellowship got a tremendously annoying roll. 4 event rolls. Now I got a handful of event cards, but still, that's really limiting towards being able to do anything else on the board. Just one character. Now I can use one of those event rolls with Strider's special ability to be able to hide, which I need to do. I forgot to move myself down to the 0. I'm back there. For the Dark Power player, I put 3 in here and then rolled an eye. Got a couple character actions. They're not as good as the army movement action, actually, but I can attack with them. For example, if I could position myself here, which I could make an attack on Dol Amroth. I got an event. You know, events are nice. Usually there is one you want to play. You don't need the roll to do it, but it prevents you from using up a different die. So it can serve some nice purpose there. The Fellowship's got to choose first, though. Okay, and the good players played one of the events to hide. A second one to throw some additional troops down here in Adoris. That's really they're running out of cards and they're running out of things to do. Now they could use their Elven Ring and trigger one of them to change one of these die rolls, I think. Let's talk about what the Dark Power player's done, and then I'll check that. Dark Power's moved to here into a siege of Dol Amroth. This was a hard call for the Fellowship, or Free People. They thought about standing and fighting, even though they're outnumbered heavily. They don't get a bonus for doing so, but they have so many event cards. I think they've got 5 in their hands still, and none of them they really want to play, except maybe for battle. Some of them would be helpful in battle, but they can use one of these to draw an event card, filling their hand up, and then hope that they can use them in the battles that are coming. They do plan on making at least one move, and then they have another event. They could either play it if they draw a good one, or they could I don't know, draw more and have to discard. It's not like the cards that you draw that you can't use right now are bad cards, but they aren't fulfilling their purpose right now. So you kind of have to say, geez, do I want these or not? You know, do I want to run through my deck? You're not going to run out, probably. There's a lot of cards in there. You could do it if you get really strange die rolls. And that's the use of the Elven Rings, is to convert dice. The one thing it can't do, and this is the other rule that I couldn't remember, it can't turn them into a Will of the West, which in general is fine because you can pick whatever action you want, but the Will of the West sometimes has special uses, like bringing Gandalf into play. I don't know that it would be terrible that you use the ring for that, at least in terms of the storyline, but, well, that's okay. Alright, gotta think of what to do with the Fellowship here. So, the Fellowship, nice, added a movement action, and unfortunately they were discovered. Took a point of damage. They took it as corruption rather than losing a character, perhaps. And then for the evil player, they played a Palantir for an event. The Lure of the Ring, play only if the Fellowship player is revealed. They were kind of cursing the fact that they hadn't been revealed before. Randomly select a companion by drawing a counter. the character must either choose to add that companion his level to the corruption value, or eliminate the companion. And if it's Gollum, you'll automatically remove it. So the Dark Power player has some kind of interesting cards in his hands, and it looks like it's a Legolam. So this is the first time and this is the Boromir seizes the ring type event in other things. This is the first time I've seen I've been given a choice. Do you want to lose this character or not? So his abilities: Captain of the West. If Legolas is in a battle, add 1 to the combat strength of the Free People's Army. Okay. And Prince of Mirkwood. If he's in an elf stronghold, use any action die to advance the elven nation a space on the political track. Yeah. You know, I think I can kill poor Legolas. He got power hungry. That's what happened. And into the pool he goes. We got to figure out where he is. He's going to have this. So our group is getting smaller and smaller. That's limiting the number of dice I can put in here. I'll only be allowed to put 3 in here at the beginning of the turn now because I only have 3 companions with me. But that's okay. I'm not in any great desire to put more than that in there. For the Fellowship, there's no question. We want to hide using Strider's power. And, well, this is fortunately a move action, which means I can launch my attack on Dol Amroth. I think that's the best I can do at this point. Kind of an interesting situation on the siege attack that the Nazgul did. On the first round of the attack, they've been able to extend the rounds by turning elite units, these Mumaks, or elephants, or whatever you want to call it, Olifants, to regular units in order to extend the siege. They're out of them now. They had 2 of them, so they extended it 2 rounds. On the first round, they did this great host where they caused an extra damage because they had better than 2-to-1 odds after the attack. That got us down to 2 defending units. We started off with 5. Second round, neither side played a card. I don't think anything happened. Third round, and I had to pay for that. Third round, the card is this one, but both sides lost 1 piece. But now I have the ability with this onslaught to sacrifice, after all the casualties are taken, up to 4 of my units, and then I roll a die for each one. On a 4 or better, I kill a unit of the enemy. Now there's only 1 here. Odds would say 2 would do it. I'm going to up that to killing 3 of my units. I could probably get away with 4, just because there's very little chance of this being captured from me. Yeah. Let's go to 4. And we succeed. Now those dice wouldn't have gotten re-rolled for leadership, but I've wiped out Dol Amroth. And there's another 2 victory points, and I am halfway, I'll mark that in a moment, I'm halfway to the total victory. What's left here? 1, 2, 3. Nothing at the ford. So I've only got 3 going for me here. That could get me up to 8. Still need 2 more. Lorien? Yeah, Lorien's worth 2. Tempting. I'm definitely putting the pressure on a military victory in a way the book doesn't, but... And that's actually something I think for this game that's an advantage over the only other military character combined game that I know of this nature, which was, of course, the SPI game. Which, again, this is something of the conceptual descendant of, even if the system is just different in every single way. The base idea of the Fellowship players trying to sneak in under the threat of a military victory. In that game, it was very, very hard for the Sauron player to ever put the pressure on. It tended to be more realistic by the book, and the real threat to the Fellowship was wading through tons of orcs that would surround Mordor, because you knew a military victory was impossible, at least for the Sauron player. Not entirely, but it felt that way. In this case, though, I'm actually putting the pressure. The fall of Gondor as a whole is really turning the screws on the Fellowship. It still is very unlikely, though. Is there a richer place? There are 3, I think 5 points up here. If I could drive north with a couple of armies, maybe I could get those more easily. The 3 points for Rohan just doesn't seem like enough. This may be a more vulnerable location. Because remember, if I hit Rohan, I can start bringing in Fellowship. I can start bringing Fellowship forces into play in a way that they're not right now. Which means, of course, the dwarves may not be safe out here. They may want to run back and get into the cover of either the elves or the humans for the same effect, in order to allow this card, essentially, this threats and promises, to expire. All right, well, we got one more shit for the Fellowship, and I got an event I know I'm going to play. I'll do that right off. I don't want to use the Bilbo's song. I have something similar to it. There is another way. It's similar in the sense that, hey, it gets a bonus with Gollum. It gives you an extra movement action. But that movement action follows all normal movement rules, which to me means there's going to be a search. That sounds dangerous to me. So this one has two like the other one, has 2 factors. First one is I can heal a corruption point. Okay. That's why I wanted to play it. It gets me down to 4 event cards so I don't lose a hand. I didn't use any in the combat. The other would be if Gollum's in the group, then I can either hide or move following normal movement rules. That could be very, very helpful. But I like the other one with its 2 corruption healing a little bit more, maybe. I don't know. Hiding may be more important. That looks like the end of the turn if I can just get that counter. Well, I almost went to 4 dice over here with the hunt dice. The reason being, not a lot of eyes have come out. I think I just got 1 eye. I don't remember how many there are total in there, but I feel like there's more. And the more hunt hits you get, the better, you're more likely to get more hunt hits if there's more dice in here, so I could do more damage. I'm kind of worried with how close the Fellowship's coming, but I figured, well, at least 1 die is going to come up. No, it didn't happen. Got all of these. Now, I could, if I had a ring, I could convert one of those dice to an eye to boost my total hunt capability, but I do not have a ring. I would have to do that during my action. Nice mixture, though, of a lot of military actions and 1 event. No character actions, that's okay, although being able to move a lot in Nazgul is cool. And actually, I have an event that's based on the characters that I wanted to use. But that's okay, I can use my event die for that. For the Fellowship, lots of military actions, 1 Will of the West, and a character action. So, I'm probably going to be starting to move. I'm not far from minus Morgul. I may not split the Fellowship in this game. The fact that I'm kind of running down here, that I don't have a whole lot of guards, it's all kind of appealing to the... Oh, I couldn't have put more than 3 dice in there. It's all kind of appealing to the thought of keeping them together and taking extra losses on those guys. The problem, well, Strider, although his special ability is very powerful, is also useful if he goes... I don't remember where it is, but it's like all areas in Minas Tirith. Minas Tirith, Dol Amroth, and Pelegrir. And it's a Will of the West action. That would give me an extra die, among other things. I have to get him out of the group if I'm going to do that. Now, if I was going to do that, that would be my action. Then I would be pulling all my people out. The reason I don't really want to do that, I can do that even though there's armies here, evil armies. But the reason I don't really want to do that is I just don't feel like I'm going to get all that much out of it. Much as I think that the evil player is doing quite well militarily in this game, he's not doing well enough. It comes down to the fight for the ring. In reality, the military in this game, every bit as much as in the other military one, is kind of this more of a time limit on the Fellowship to push forward. Well, right now, I'm already one space in. I'm in South Ithilien, or North Ithilien if I want to be. I'm ready to start the trip down there. The split up here makes sense because you send someone here and start activating these things. But it looks like a hard fight, and Gandalf's here in the way with his dwarves. If I can maybe push back and help defend some of this stuff, I can prevent the evil player from getting to his 10. I don't think Rohan's worth attacking at this time. It's just not enough points. Now up here, can I find any? I've got 2 in Rivendell that I could grab. The Shire's worth 1, and the Grey Havens is worth 2. So there's the other route for 5. I just don't have the troops up there to do it at this point. I could, of course, use Saruman's troops in that direction. No reason I can't do that. But it's a long walk compared to what I have here that can put pressure this way. Fellowship, cognizant of that danger, builds more dwarfs up in Erebor. Those are elite dwarves, using one of his muster actions. But this is the nasty Saruman card. The Nazgul Strike allows you to move all your Nazgul, just like a character card would, or a normal character die roll would, but I get to do it with an event die, which is bonus. Only because the Fellowship has been moving. They're not on the spot they were expected to. But now I get to draw at least 1 Nazgul in the region containing the Fellowship last on position. You may either discard 1 Free People's character card. That would be an event card, a character event card. I can't discard Gandalf, for example. Or I can immediately roll for the hunt. Well, I'm going to roll for the hunt. I only get 3 dice. I should have probably held this until after they moved and put an extra die in there. And I get nothing. That was a mistake. At the end of the turn, no more event cards were played. In the Fellowship, good player has 6 cards. That means he's going to be drawing 2 more. He'll have some discards to make. Those are hidden discards. All the dice come back. Basically what we've got is the evil player. That's actually a full 10 boat there with 3 Nazgul coming there. And we have Isengard moving this way towards the Shire and Bree. There's quite a bit of force up here in this Northman town. However, that may not be the best move. It may be better to make an attack against the Woodland Realm, which looks like it's got 2 of these. Or Erebor, perhaps. Gandalf might be able to cover these different approaches. As these move towards him, this force may end up moving towards Lorien. It's all kind of converging into a, if I can get enough attacks, right? All I need is a 1-point place, like say the Shire, and 2 of the 2-point places. Well, there's 1 here. The next one becomes trickier because Gandalf's covering these. Helm's Deep and Edoras. Helm's Deep looks like it's worth 2. It's a citadel. That's a possibility. But with the entirety of the army moving north, I don't think that's going to happen. So it's kind of this tricky position where the Sauron player is trying to figure out, how he can get a grip on the army. He doesn't think he can beat Gandalf, even with this full force. There's quite a bit here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units, and I should probably get some counter reduction going on, just like I have there. All right, well, I think it's time to send this one up. It seems like we're coming to that kind of climactic period in the game, though, where next turn we're going to see the Fellowship revealing itself here and moving on to this track, and a rather large Fellowship. There's a disadvantage to the large Fellowship, which is to say, these counters that reveal, Gollum is better at keeping you hidden than Aragorn will be. He knows Moria better, or Mordor better. His specifics are that whenever a reveal event comes up, if it's not on an eye or a special shadow tile, it won't reveal the Fellowship. So, for example, if this tile is drawn. But here's the thing. I've got a lot of numbers that I've pulled out of the pile. So the eye reveal is going back in. I don't know how many numbers there are in here, but there aren't a lot of tokens total in there. I just feel like there's a good chance that Gollum doesn't give me a huge advantage given what I've drawn and everything. So, anyway, that's all going on intuition because I don't know how to, I don't know what the card mix is, etc., or counter mix is, as well as somebody who's used to the game would.